Welcome to the Lyrically Speaking podcast, where we dissect, dig deep, and discover the lyrics to some of the most popular songs ever written. We ask, what are they really telling us? What can we learn? Or unlearn in some cases. I'm Louise.
And I'm Omar.
And here on the Lyrically Speaking podcast, we share our thoughts on how the broader themes from these songs relate to our real everyday lives. So if you love music, if you enjoy critical thinking and reflecting on life's bigger themes while having a laugh with friends, then this is the place for you.
So we got a lovely track for you today by a real songstress, giving it away already. So as always, I'm going to give a couple of facts about the song. This song was released in 2000, so we're moving into the millennium. And it was from the third studio album called The Heat. The artist won Grammy for Best Female R&B Vocal in 2001. So I don't know if The Heat rings any bells to anyone. It didn't for me, because I wasn't a massive fan. But if you were a fan...
To be honest, it didn't for me either. Like, I was a fan, but I just can't, for some reason, I can't actually recall the album names of this artist for some reason.
Yes. This artist was known for ballads and beautiful, beautiful love songs. But in this particular track, she was getting real sassy. She was being disrespectful. She was in a
sassy era.
Listen, she was going through a hot girl summer phase. They all have it. Whitney had hers when she was saying it's not right, but it's okay. She had a little sassy moment. Mariah, she went from a hero to running on the beach, being real sassy. So they all go through a phase. These R&B songstresses, they go through these phases where they want to be really feisty.
They do. And actually, it reminded me a bit of, because when I think of the video to this song, have you said who the artist is yet? So
I haven't. No, so
okay, be careful. Yeah. When I think of the video of this song, I'm reminded of, it gives me like a Beyoncé vibe of her Crazy in Love era, and I thought, oh, maybe they were all doing this because Beyonce came out with her Crazy in Love video, and they were all doing that sassy thing you're talking about. But no, actually, Beyonce's Crazy in Love video came out 3 years.
She came after
this
2003. Yes. So they were setting pace for the sassy.
Yes.
Hey, we already in the R&B world, we already saw the sassiness. Beyonce was copying. She was not the original feisty, independent lady. She wasn't the original. So the song we're talking about is He Wasn't Man Enough by Toni Braxton. I mean, these lyrics, she was out here being just rude and wrong and disrespectful. But let's have a listen to what she decided she wanted to say. So Toni says, listen, girl, who do you think I am?
It's already starting very condescending.
Straight away, girl. She didn't even say, woman, you know, let me step to you as a woman, you know, I'm coming to you as a woman, you know?
Yes.
Well, she didn't even say that. She said, girl.
Listen,
girl.
So there's some frustration. She's not happy. She's angry.
She's not happy. She says, who do you think I am? Don't you know that he was my man? But I chose to let him go. So why do you act like I still care about him? Looking at me like I'm hurt when I'm the one who said I didn't want it to work. Don't you forget I had him first.
So clearly it's very important that Toni is showing this other woman that she didn't lose out. There's a bit of ego here, isn't there?
Ego to the max, to the max, to the max. Then she says, what are you thinking? Stop blaming me. Now, I don't, even for me, stop blaming me. Well, I don't know what this lady would be blaming her for. Perhaps the lady's blaming her for the fact that the guy is looking at her, not, you know, I don't know. Stop blaming me. He wasn't man enough for me. If you don't know, here's your chance. I've already had your man. Do you wonder just where he's been? Yeah, and not be worried about him? Now it's time you know the truth. I think he's just the man for you.
Disrespectful.
She's out here being rude and wrong. Tony's got no type of behaviour in this song. No type of common, decent behaviour. I'm
And
shocked.
actually, if we see the video reveals that, yes, maybe that is what happened, that they're at a party or whatever, aren't they? And the man, her ex-man, walks by.
You're bringing it back.
Woman,
yeah.
And he looks at her. He looks at Tony. So
you're
that's
bringing it
what's
back.
happened here.
You are bringing it back to my remembrance now. Wow. It's true. That was the story in the video.
Yes.
But honestly, you know, from the lady that was giving us "Breathe Again," I shall never breathe again. All these romantic lyrics. She's
breathing now.
Listen. She's breathing. She's really giving it what for, giving it some gusto. So then she finally says, "What are you thinking?" After all the disrespect, she's still got more. She says, "What are you thinking? Do you know about us? What are you thinking? Do you know about us back then? Do you know I dumped your husband, girlfriend? Ooh. And I'm not thinking about him."
Okay.
Look at that. And then she goes on to say, I mean, it just gets so wrong, "But you married him. Do you know I made him leave?" Listen, if it wasn't bad enough, she's saying I dumped him, but you, girl, with your simple self, you married him. You didn't just date him. You didn't just have a situationship. You married him. Listen, Toni, I've never heard such disrespect.
She is digging in the knife.
Deep. And then she says, "Do you know I made him leave? Do you know he begged to stay with me?" And then she ends by saying, "He wasn't man enough for me."
Oh, gosh.
Shocking. Isn't that shocking? I mean, I was shocked. I was shocked that Toni could be so rude to another female. I just couldn't believe that Toni was going on like this. I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect Toni to be going on like this. And, you know, when you listen to the song back in the day, you see all this disrespect. It's disguised because the beat, the dancing, everything. And I'm going to say this song was produced by Rodney Darkchild Jerkins. Now, Rodney did all the songs. I mean, he did Darkchild. Every song, when you think back to your teen, every song was Darkchild. We need to, in fact, can we just give Rodney a round of applause for the work ethic?
He carried the 2000s on his back. He carried the 2000s on his back.
Listen,
he was producing all those R&B songs.
He needs a moment all of his own because Rodney, you did the thing. You did it. We give it to you. He's got 4 children, from what I'm understanding. He's got 4 children, married, family man. He put in the work.
And you know what? The producers don't get enough shine. Actually,
they don't.
No one really talks about the producers, do they?
But, you know, I think they do make the money. I think the producers make the money because you notice that after a while, people start to put themselves as exec producers on the tracks and stuff because I think that's where you actually get the money. Yes. I don't know how much the artists really get. But yeah, so we had to give up for Rodney, Darkchild Jerkins. You know, you really made the 90s, 2000s. You held it down. You did your thing. But let's get back into Toni because Toni shocked me with these lyrics. Now, here's the thing. I was looking at the statistics about relationships because it's a bit strange. Most times when you're with someone, you're dating someone, which is a grown person, the chances are they are going to have had a previous relationship. High chances, especially in today's society with the way things are, they're going to have had a previous relationship. I looked at the statistics. And it was saying that in the United States, they did a survey of 2,000 individuals, and the median number of relationships before marriage was around 5 for both men and women. That's considerable. They did another study amongst Americans looking at the number of relationships that had led to marriage. And for most people, it was about 2. So that the other study said 2. So if you take an average between 2 and 5, it's going to be about 3 people. And then in the UK, they did a similar study and they found that the numbers were 2.6 for women and 2.7 for men.
So it's lower.
It's lower. Yeah, well, it's lower in the UK. Listen, we're not going to get into that. US culture's it's a bit different. But the chances are, if you were in a serious relationship with someone, they are going to have been with another person. That's just standard. So you already know going into it that there could be an ex somewhere. There could be a previous partner. So for Toni to have this much energy towards this other person and all these views and all this, pride and ego that she's bringing, it's a bit much. It's a bit weird. But then when we dissect it from what she's saying, it seems that the other lady in question is potentially trying to rub it in her face. So I want to focus first on this concept that you get in with someone, he's been with someone else, but you feel like, I won. I got the prize. So Louise, what's your thoughts on that particular mindset?
I don't know, it just gets me thinking about, is that attitude conducive to this sisterhood concept? But then I thought, well, is there a sisterhood? Because we see this dynamic play out quite a lot where, there's jealousy, one woman's jealous of the other woman, of the old woman, or the old woman is jealous of the new woman, and the man is sort of in the middle. No, I wouldn't say he's pulling the strings, because men aren't necessarily to blame for this, but he's a factor in the dynamic. And I just think any time where men are the cause or the reason for you disliking, hating, or putting down another woman, I think that's a problem, and we've got to check ourselves. Whether or not this woman the new woman that is, has the right to be jealous is the question. But Toni could have responded in a slightly more gracious way by seeing, okay, maybe this new woman is a bit insecure. Maybe she's heard about me a lot. Maybe we just walked into this party and he was looking at me. I can understand why she might feel a bit jealous. But Toni really unleashed on her. It
was a lot.
I think both of them are at fault. Both of them have that attitude that's not helpful to sisterhood.
Yeah, and what do you think as well? Because I think that's the point about the sisterhood. What do you think as well, though, about this concept that because we're talking about marriage here, right? We're talking about this woman that's married this guy. What do you think about this concept that, I've married him, so I've won, like I'm the one that he chose, what do we think about that? It just between females, because naturally there's someone out there for everyone, right? Everyone's going to have their person. And there's that saying that says, you've got to kiss a few frogs to get to the prince. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but like I say, most people are going to have had someone else. So this whole thing around it being a competition, you mentioned about, the guys in the middle pulling the strings. But do you think when it comes to things like this, sometimes we give men a bit too much power over our sense of satisfaction and our sense of achievement?
It's women's fault. It is women's fault, because you mentioned the key word competition. And what this song indicates is that women are competitive.
Yeah.
And what are we competing over? The affection of a man.
Of a man. Yeah. 100%.
That's the resource we're competing over.
Yeah.
As though they're in short supply.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of them around. And I do think that it does happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But is it men's fault? I don't think so. I see a lot about this in different forums where they say, oh, it's internalized misogyny. Women have internalized misogyny. And so now we only fight each other and compete with each other because of men, what men have done. And I'm just not buying it, because at the end of the day, we have a choice.
Yeah.
In terms of how we'll think and how we'll respond to things. And to say that we've just internalized this misogyny suggests that we're not very strong-minded or strong-willed.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when all is said and done, we can be the ones to say, I'm not going to compete with other women, number one, full stop.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to compete over the resource of a man.
Yeah.
I mean, it does link to bigger topics if we were to explore that, like the fact that, at least in the past, history will tell us that who you marry would indicate your social standing and your financial capability and what you had access to. So, and it is to a degree still relevant today. It is, not every woman has access to the type of opportunities that will make her financially secure. But just because that might be true, just because, yes, it could mean that who you marry will determine your social class, your social standing and survival, does that mean we should put other women down because we're competing for the man?
Exactly. And I think this concept of competition between women, and it's interesting you mentioned that internalized misogyny. It's a very interesting concept because I was reading another article in Vogue about frenemies. And it was talking about how many, many women literally, spend their lives in this sense of competition with other women, even with people who are supposed to be friends. Yeah. So a lot of these women in this article were being very honest about having frenemies. So a frenemy is someone that is a friend, based on the word, friend/enemy. You're friends, you spend all your time together, you do everything together, but the underlying thing between you is competition, jealousy, and really you dislike seeing the other person doing well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when we're thinking about this mindset,
frenemy.
Oh gosh, yeah, girl. The saddest thing, I feel like in hindsight, I've realized people were frenemies, but I feel like I've always been so oblivious. And I guess that's the thing where you don't see yourself on any pedestal. So you don't think anyone would have any, like, why would you be jealous of me? Or why would you?
Women, there's no reason for the jealousy oftentimes. Like there's nothing. Oftentimes, and this is where I think greed comes into it, because oftentimes the frenemy, the woman or whatever, has more money. Has better everything.
They got better everything, better choices, they have better options.
Yeah, but they're still jealous. They still are hating on you, and I just don't understand that.
It's bizarre. That power that you got an idea, they've always got a negative. Oh no, you need to be careful. Oh well, my other friend did that and it went really wrong. Oh, are you going down that way? Or they've always they always notice something wrong with your outfit or with your hair or with your this or with your. But like I said, it's only in hindsight when I've looked back and gone, oh, that was a frenemy. They weren't really my friend. But we have a lot of this. And in this Vogue article, these women were sharing how they were best friends with people, but deliberately went after their boyfriends, tried to outshine them in everything, tried to do things and not tell them.
You see, that's going beyond competing over guys.
That's just been scandalous, isn't it?
Secure. It's scandalous.
Absolutely scandalous. But so this thing about sisterhood, I think, is important. And then where you were talking about women just generally competing with one another, generally not wishing each other well. I think when we're looking at this song, we can clearly see that this lady, if she is throwing her weight around because she's got the guy, the other side of this, and this is the other thing I want to go into, the other side of this is Toni's level of pride and ego and Toni's need to put this woman in her place. The reality is, and Toni's need to share with this woman all these negative things about this guy. Here's the reality. When the guy could have been with you and he could have been a disaster with you. He might have been cheating and all that because maybe deep down he didn't really like you. Maybe the reason you guys got together was for, people, as you know, we've talked about this, but people get into relationships for many reasons. You've mentioned some things around social status. Sometimes it's financial. Sometimes it's time of life. People get into relationships. Maybe Toni just wasn't the right woman for this man. Should he have operated with some more self-control and not been cheated? Of course, but that's a different topic for another day. But it didn't work out with Toni and him. But that does not mean that we have the right as people, and this is why I'm going with Toni, to write people off. his story with you is not necessarily his story for the rest of his life. And this insinuation that, oh, well, when he was with me, did you know he did this? Did you know he did that? Now, you know, he may go on to do that, but let homegirl discover it for herself. You don't need to throw in his history in her face. We have to be able to allow people to move beyond their mistakes. He may have made some mistakes when he wasn't, because he wasn't married to Toni, I'm assuming. They were just together.
I see where you're coming from, but it is a predictor of future behaviour.
It is, but
how he has behaved in the past is she doesn't, but she's trying to, like you said, put her in her place because she's trying to act like, oh, I'm better than you.
Yeah,
I find women can't handle that. Like a lot of women, not all, but a lot of women, because of the competitive nature, because of how jealous some women can be, they can't handle it if there's even an inkling that another woman is
looking down at them,
saying that they're better. They have to put them in their place. And I remember talking to my husband about this once, about the dynamics between women. And he said, you see, men operate differently.
Yeah.
Because if we are in a group of men meet, and let's say we hear one guy has solved world wars, has a huge network, has a happy family, kids, like he's just like a model guy. He's successful in his relationships. He's puts his talents to good use and he's generated good money from it. Men will be like, okay, now I can kind of figure out where I fit in comparison to him. I'm not going to try and compete with that.
Yes.
I'm going to acknowledge, okay, he's up here. And if I'm sort of, in the middle amongst all these guys, I'm just going to accept it.
Yes.
Whereas women, if women ever get that sense that another woman has accomplished more and has done more, even if the woman doesn't even value any of those things, because it depends on what we value as to whether or not we think someone's more accomplished. But even if she doesn't value any of the things that the other woman has accomplished, if she just gets the sense that, oh, the woman is up here and I'm slightly below her, that can't be. I've got to find a way to drag her down and then pull myself up so that I'm higher. Yeah. And I think there has to come a point where you take men out of the conversation.
100%.
Scapegoating them and take responsibility.
I agree. No, 100% agree. And I think that this is the thing. She was throwing low blows at this particular lady and she used the relationship. But really the reality is, I think, where we could go with this is that what does it boil down to? It boils down to the fact that Toni does clearly have some level of insecurity about the fact this guy has moved on and he left her and went on to somebody else. Because the way I see it is, if you're content in your situation, why would you care?
But then I think it is also what I was saying earlier about not wanting to get the feeling that, this woman thinks she's better than her.
Yeah.
She doesn't want that sentiment to linger. Because in the video, the new wife actually waves her ring finger.
Oh, you're bringing me back here now. I don't remember any
of my ring.
Yes.
So I think it's a combination of ego and being like, well, you're not better than me.
Yeah.
And also, don't try and insinuate that I'm a man stealer. But the way she does it is to put the woman in her place.
Yeah, but you know what? This brings me to another topic about the lady waving the ring finger. Because there is this thing, and I want to get your views on it, around women who are married seeing themselves as more valuable or better than women who are single. And I want to get your take on that. Like, what is your views and experience on that? And do you think that there is any basis to women who feel that marriage gives them, because we're not back in the 1800s. It's not the days of Pride and Prejudice, like you were talking about, where marriage was a status thing. Now, women are very capable of doing things by themselves. So what do you think of that concept? I'm the married one, you're still single, ha ha ha.
To be honest, it goes beyond that. It's also women who are mothers as well, women who have children and are married.
Yeah.
They are basically seeing themselves at the top of
The food chain. Yeah.
The food chain as it comes to women. They're the most highest quality women because they're married and they have children. And then the second is the married woman.
Yeah.
And then they can all now beat down on the woman that's not married or with children. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Again, I think it's indicative of the fact that we as women are putting our whole value and sense of self and worth into being married and having children. When really, what do you have to do to have children? There's nothing that you have to really do that's that arduous or special to you.
Right, it's biology.
Yes, it's
biology.
Exactly. So again, it's not necessarily revealing that you have a special quality or anything.
Yeah.
And the same thing with getting married. Okay, first of all, let's see the quality of the relationship before we start getting too excited.
Exactly.
One is just married. So I think when we look at people like Risa Tisa, who the F did I marry?
Yeah.
We see that she idolized being a wife.
Yes.
But after everything she went through, finding out that her husband was a pathological liar, lied about absolutely everything, I'm sure she would have wished that she was just back to being the single woman. And 100%. There is nothing honourable in and of itself of being married. There is nothing honourable in and of itself of being a mother. Where the honour, from my perspective, comes is when you're a good wife.
100%.
In how you're a wife, when you're a good mother, and how you're a mother, and even beyond that, when you're a good friend, when you're a good daughter. And you don't need to be married to be a good friend, to be a good daughter, to be a positive person to your colleagues and your co-workers. It has nothing to do with that. No shade to any mothers, but I can have kids, give birth, as we said, it's biology, and completely ignore my children and completely neglect them, neglect my husband, be all into myself, be all about how I look on social media and posting nice pictures of me and my kids on social media. Meanwhile, I don't spend any time with them. So it doesn't show us anything just because you are a wife or a mother. It doesn't. Yeah. So that's what I think about it.
And I think it's true what you're saying. And it goes back to this thing, because you don't see this with men. This is the interesting thing. We talk about the competition with women. It's we've found every way to try to put ourselves in a different pecking order. And I've had it. I've got 2 children. You have a baby, and all of a sudden, all these people that never check for you, all of a sudden, it's the mums club. They're up in your timeline. They're WhatsApping you, and you check for me. And all of a sudden, just because now I've got children, we could now be friends. Now I'm worthy of being a friend. Or, when I was getting married, it was like, all of a sudden, you now want to par with me because we're all at the same level. And I just find that stuff shocking. And you don't really see it with men. My husband has friends, at all different stages, some with children, some married, some not. You even hear women say, now I'm married, I don't hang out with single women anymore. Or now I've got children, I just can't hang out with women who don't have children, because they just don't understand.
It's so strange.
It's so bizarre. And for me, I think going back to your point, Louise, what we should always be focusing on is our character. These things are roles. They're roles. But you having the role doesn't determine, like you say, how good you are in that role. And the good is not that you make the best brownies and put the best pictures on Instagram. Exactly. You go on the best play dates. It's actually, how is that person experiencing you in that role? How is your husband experiencing you as a wife? How are your children experiencing you as a mother? And it will be different, training up a child in the way that they should go. It's going to be different for every child, but it's how are you playing that role, in your specific situation, not just the fact that you have the role, you have the title. And so it's so interesting. It's like, we talk about men being competitive and we talk about men being aggressive, but honestly, some of the stuff we see on Insta, I feel is just as aggressive with the women when it comes to some of these roles.
Women are more aggressive. Women are more competitive and aggressive because, like I said, I think from what I see, from what my husband shared, if they see that, okay, a particular man is doing better than them, they don't necessarily try to tear that man down so that they can take that position. They will still compete, but to elevate themselves.
For themselves.
Rather than to destroy the other person.
Exactly.
For other people's views or opinions or whatever. And I just think that at what point will we look at ourselves and acknowledge that this is us, it's not men? I wanted to ask you, actually, what do you think, how do we resolve this? How do we fix this mess? Because something you said really, I've heard single women talk about this. I have experienced and seen the whole, when a wife then becomes a mother, it's like she's now in another realm. She's another realm of superiority, and you're no longer worthy to engage with because you're not a mum and you don't understand. And we're now in another stratosphere. And it is such a shame, because actually we're meant to stay connected, because there's so much we can learn from each other across all in all ways.
Exactly.
There's a lot that a married woman with children can learn from a married woman without kids, from a single woman, whatever it is, and vice versa. So you so perfectly said that men don't do this. They don't cut friends off just because now they've got kids or whatever. But ultimately, how do we fix this? How do we reverse it?
So it's a tough one, but I feel like we're going to be saying the same thing with a lot of the topics that we hit on. But I think ultimately people have to begin to grow in contentment in their own situation. I think, and it's tough to grow in contentment, but I think trying to find a sense of fulfillment in whatever stage you're at, I think is key. Because when you have that sense of fulfillment in the stage that you're at, you're not really going to be looking to tear anyone else down or lord anything over anyone. You're actually going to be wanting to just lift up the people around you in whatever way, as you focus on lifting yourself up.
There's a curious nuance to what you said, because this is something I've noticed, and I wonder if you've noticed it too, where some women will go onto Instagram and follow and admire and adore other women that are, I guess, living the life they want. But then if they see their friend living that life, it's a problem. They're not as supportive.
Yeah.
So I know you're talking about contentment, but many women seem to be content when they're admiring the woman online on social media, but then they become discontent when they see their immediate friend in their social circle.
I think the people just need to get off social media. I think people, honestly, I actually think when I break this down, because what is happening, and this is the truth, people are becoming very happy with fake character based on just distance. Oh, I'm going to show that I'm a very supportive, kind person by liking a picture.
Do you think that's fake?
Yeah. If you can't like it for the person near you, there's got to be an element of fake there. If you can like it for Gabrielle Union, and you can like it for Taraji P. Henson, and you can like it for whatever the latest influencer is, but you can't like it for your girlfriend that's next to you, there's something amiss here. And is it because you already see that person as elevated beyond you, so you can be happy for them?
I think that's part of it.
Because, and this is the thing, there's that saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Yes.
You've known this person. You've come up with this person. Maybe they always wanted to be like you. Maybe coming up, you were the superstar and they were always trying to pick your brain and get advice from you. And now all of a sudden the tables have turned. And this is the challenge, because some people can only be happy for you from a place of dominance over you. But that's very, very dysfunctional and unhealthy. We shouldn't have to be dominant over someone to be happy.
Yes.
And I think that's the problem. So when you see them liking the celebrity or the influencers, because they already see that person as being higher than them. They already see that person as being on them. But
their friend is on their level.
We're on the same.
Who do you think you are?
100%. And it's actually the root of all of this is pride. The roots of all of this is pride. And I think that's the challenge of social media as it is now. It is really, we're we're developing monsters. And I have to put it like the way it is. We're developing people that are so driven by selfies, even the terms, like, and then every image is you and what you're doing and there and there. And everything is built around yourself and your image. And I think when we become so focused on our own image, all we're doing is building our pride, building our ego, and we will never be happy for anyone else when we're so consumed by our own selves and our own appearance. So I think actually getting on social media will probably help a lot of people, because you'll start to be able to appreciate what's real. Like my pal next to me coming up has also just had a baby, or has also just, I don't know, whatever, got a nice new job, or has also just bought herself a nice new whip, or whatever it is. You can now focus on the things that are real, that are going on around you, and not live in this fantasy land and, you know, get away with only, you know, caring about people that you already esteem. And you esteem them without knowing them as well at the same time. So I feel like I said a few things there, but that's some of the stuff that comes to me based on what you said.
I could definitely see that. I'm sure, I've not looked into the stats around social media, but I'm sure that women dominate the users on social media, especially Instagram. And I just always found it to be very strange that people can support and champion someone who's doing great things that they don't know. But then if it's their immediate friend, suddenly the jealousy, the competition kicks in. So it's a very interesting perspective. I think my perspective is that personally, I've only ever competed with myself.
Yeah.
Because what other people have or don't have has no bearing on me. You know, if you tomorrow go out and buy a Mercedes, which is like one of my dream cars that I'd love to have one day. But if you go out and buy a Mercedes, that doesn't mean I can't buy one. You know, it doesn't impact
exactly.
If anything, seeing you get your dream car motivates and inspires me.
100%.
To feel like, oh, I'll be able to get mine. And also maybe I can ride around in your car and pretend that it belongs to me or whatever it is, you know. So I've never really had that mindset of if someone else that's in my immediate circle is advancing, that means I can't, or it's going to negatively impact me in some way. I don't really get that thought process, to be honest. I think that the starting point is to not compete with anyone except yourself.
Yeah.
Because it also leads us to know ourselves well. Because I've been given a certain amount of resources, right? I've been given what I've been given.
Yes.
I can build it, but I can only build it and grow it and enhance it if I'm suitably getting to know what I have in my own basket. If I'm constantly looking at other people's baskets, I'm never going to know what I've got, and therefore I can never multiply it, capitalize on it, or make the most of it. So what I've been given in my basket, I can't change it, but I can make the most of it and multiply it by understanding it, testing it, spending time with it, and making the most of my life. That's all we can do, is make the most of our life and stop watching other people's lives.
Get off social media.
Get off social media.
You know?
And if we are going to be on social media, to genuinely be inspired and motivated by other people. So that's my view. You know, you spoke about contentment. I think that's really important. And I would add on to that just competing with our own selves.
Yeah.
Trying to top ourselves, not other people.
Yeah. But you see, that's the thing. And this is the reality. Like, we live in a generation where people, rather than push themselves, and this is, again, it's self-awareness. Admit your frailties, accept your frailties. Don't make excuses for them. Yeah. And see, a lot of people, if they see their friend, you know how your mum and dad used to say to you, they got A, you got B. Have they got two heads? You remember? Like, why can't you do, what's up with you? Why can't you? And the point is, our parents were like, there is no excuse. You can come top. Now, sometimes, you know, our parents went a bit too far, but the point is, if someone has something that you like, you think it's a good thing, you think it's a thing to have, then what do? You buckle down and you work on yourself and you push yourself and you do what you need to do for yourself. Like you were saying about the men.
Yes, I feel like jealousy is the result of laziness.
Laziness and making excuses. Just
yes.
say, I can't be bothered to put in the work, because here's the reality. The person that's got it, how did they get that 6-figure job? Is it by sitting around? Was it by sitting around doing nothing? No, they were hustling. They were either hustling, getting the degree or getting the qualifications, or they were hustling doing the networking and someone opened the door for them. Whatever it was, they were doing something, and you have not done that thing. So rather than making excuses, oh, look at them, they always get it. You know, how come it's them and not me? Well, why should it be you? Why should it be you? What have you done to make it you? And that's the stupid thing. And I feel like women, we do this a lot. It's called navel gazing. Stop navel gazing.
Yes.
Stop looking out and woe is me and pity and no. If they did it, they got married. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to go out and just grab a husband off the streets, but you can work on yourself. You can work on yourself. If you don't like your looks, you can make your looks better. You can start working out. You can do all these types of things to make yourself feel more confident. You can go to the right places. You can start putting yourself out. I'm not saying it's going to naturally make it happen. It doesn't necessarily go that way. But again, doing these things can fuel contentment. And I mean, I'm not an advocate for Andrew Tate in any way, shape or form.
Oh dear.
Some of his ideology for me is problematic, but he said one thing, and I'm going to say it here because he says that there was a lot of young guys message him talking about how they're depressed. I'm depressed. I'm depressed. And you know what he tells them? He says, you know what I tell them? I say, go get a 6-pack and come back and tell me. But you know what it is? It's not the,
I don't know if that's the answer.
No. But you know what it is? It's not the answer per se, but it's not the 6-pack. It's the pursuit of betterment. What does it take to get a 6-pack? You've got to clean up your eating. Certain friends now you can't hang out with no more. You can't be going out drinking and binging and taking drugs and do all the stuff. You can't do that anymore. You can't be going bed any time. And when you got to get up early and go gym, you know, the level of discipline and rudiment that you have to get into to get that 6-pack, it refocuses your whole brain. And for me, I said, wow, he's onto something there, because by the time you're focused on your own goals, you haven't got the time to be depressed and looking at what someone's got that's bringing you down. And I'm not talking about clinical depression that is, you know, chemical diagnosed. I'm talking about the feeling of depression. We feel low, which often comes from just a general dissatisfaction or discontentment with stuff around. Go get a 6-pack. And he says that 9 out of 10 of these men come back and say, I feel amazing. Thank you so much. I'm working out. I'm this, I'm that. So it's about focusing on yourself.
Emphasizing what you said, focusing on your own goals, your own goals, not other people's, on your own goals. And the reality is that sometimes, Omar, we just have to accept, okay, I can't do that thing. That's not my gift. You know, I'm going to accept whatever lot I've been given.
Exactly.
So I don't know, let's say, you know, I keep talking about the Mercedes, but let's just say you are a banker, Omar, and you are making 6 figures and your bonus is 6 figures. And I want to be, I don't know, a primary school teacher, for instance. Okay. That is my passion. That's what I want to do. That's what brings me joy. I'm probably not going to reach your level of financial status. And it's okay.
And it's okay.
I have to accept, okay, I'm not on Omar's financial status level. And
I'm not on that path.
We don't all have to be the same.
Yeah.
And that was the point my husband was alluding to. We don't all have to be exactly to be
but
happy.
We're not happy with that anymore, and I blame social media, because back in the day you didn't even know all the jobs people could do. You didn't know who could do what, who was making money offline. I remember back in the day I joined a little affiliate marketing thing. Now affiliate marketing is the way to hustle online and make 6 figures and stuff, but back in the day it wasn't on socials. You just happened to know about it, so you would happen to get into it, and that's how you did it. You just found out about certain things. And now they push it. Everyone's pushing this entrepreneur. Your mom, your mompreneur, your businesswoman, your this, your that, your that. You got to tick every box. We never used to know about all the boxes, Lou.
I don't know, though. I don't know if it's social media because, okay, I'll give you an example. Remember I used to talk about your hair? I used to say your hair is so beautiful. It's silky and it's like 4A. My hair is like 4C. It is like hardcore Yoruba hair. It is the real front. Okay, there's no silkiness going on. And I always used to praise you for your hair. I accepted. I don't have. I didn't. The social media wasn't really existing.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
But I had a friend who had that real nice silky. I think even had the baby hair, and I accepted. I praised you for it. I was like, "This is wonderful. I love your hair." I didn't think, right, I've got to find a way to destroy.
But you know what? You didn't think that. But I tell you what, it was easier for you to be content because there wasn't a million hair influencers telling you how you could turn that 4C into something different, or people telling you how you could grow your hair down to your bum.
Oh my, because when we were growing up, you know, all these music videos we're watching was
true.
What we saw, depicted on television and media as the beauty standards was not
very true.
The 4C, 4D,
very true,
4E,
very true.
Right? It was the straighter, silkier hair. So even before social media, there was beauty standards being set.
True.
So there's always going to be an opportunity to compare yourself. There's always going to be an opportunity to say, "Oh, this person has what I don't have." But why can't we just accept our limitations? Why can't we just accept, I think you alluded to this earlier, why can't we just accept this person has it? I don't actually have that. It would be great if I had it, but I am accepting that I don't, and that's okay. I'm going to maximize and make the most of what I have and be the best version of me that I can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's really how we can find contentment.
Agree.
Is to accept the blessings we have, the extras we have, but to also accept the limitations and the lack we have and do the best we can with those things.
100%. No, I think everything you said there, I really agree with. And really, ultimately, yes, girl. And ultimately, this boils down to, we don't have to feud with our ex's new person. We don't have to act like we've won the prize. We don't have to do all of those things. What we should be doing is just focusing on ourselves and handling our own business. So
I had one last question for you, though.
Go on.
One last question. Does the sisterhood exist? I asked it earlier. We never actually spoke about it. Does the sisterhood actually exist?
You know what? It's such a tough one. Is it a
figment of Hollywood that has been depicted in movies and television shows?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think, I think it exists in certain spheres. I'm a church girl. I think in certain spheres, in certain communities, it does exist. It's not always the case, but I think based on certain principles and values, for the most part, people generally are running their own race and in their own lane. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about dysfunctional church environments. That's a whole topic for another day, right? That's a whole different topic. But I do think in some communities, in some spheres, I think that level of sisterhood can exist. We've been friends for a very long time now. I can say that level of sisterhood can exist. But does the sisterhood, the global sisterhood, I would have to be honest and say, no, I don't believe there is a sister. Most of my experiences show me that women are competitive, women are cutthroat. Even in any work environment, women are the most likely to want to tear you down, challenge how well you're doing in your career. I find most of that tends to come from women, where you would think that people would lift you up, and where you'd expect that if you have like a female boss, for example, she's going to lift you up. In my experience, I've found there's more competition. Possibly though, because there are people still feel that, again, it's rooted in insecurity. We still feel like there are so few spaces for us as women. And we feel like when we've arrived, we have to hold on to that space. We get that sense of status, and we have to hold on to that. We don't really want to bestow that same sense to somebody else. And again, it boils down to, like I say, personal insecurity and personal lack of contentment. But overall, I would say globally, at large, no. I get the concept of it. I know what it should be, but does it truly exist in the way you would want it to? I don't think so. Don't know what your thoughts are, though.
I don't think it is. It's just to be quite plain.
I don't exist.
Listen.
I said be diplomatic. She's like, I don't think it don't.
It doesn't exist. And actually, maybe is it time for key takeaways? Because this segues.
Let's go into the key takeaways, Sisterhood.
So, I think flowing off the back of what we just shared, I think that actually us women could learn a bit from male dynamics, to be honest. I think we should observe male dynamics a bit more, the simplicity of their relationships, the healthy competition in that, you know, they if they are going to compete, they're pushing each other to do better rather than trying to tear each other down. And they accept where they're at. You know, if they know that this friend's a high flyer, that's not them. It's like, okay, that's just not me. I'm still going to move on with my life, and I can still be friends with them. I can still be friends with other men who are married, single, with kids. It doesn't matter. We can still be friends regardless of what phase of life we're in. I think there's a lot we could observe and learn from male dynamics, and then perhaps maybe we could have more of a semblance of a sisterhood. And then my second takeaway is compete with ourselves. Just compete.
100%.
With yourself.
100%.
Because you'll never be the other person. You might be able to achieve some of what they've achieved, but is that what you should be achieving?
Exactly.
That might not be your path.
Run your race.
Run your own race. And last thing is, it's actually to our betterment to be surrounded by women who are doing the things we would like to achieve but have not yet achieved. It's to our betterment. And there's a way where we can make it inspire and motivate us rather than lead us to jealousy and envy.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the flip side of the coin of jealousy and envy is admiration. And I think we need to get more comfortable with just saying I admire you. I actually would love to have that thing you have. Doing the opposite of what Toni did. Toni was fueled by ego, okay? And I think we as women, it's okay to be more vulnerable in our friendships or in our relationships and put the ego to the side and say, actually, you know what, I admire that. I really would love to have that one day. And you motivate me, you inspire me.
Yeah.
So those are my key takeaways.
Yeah, and I'm going to just say, don't be rude and wrong like Toni. Don't be rude and wrong. And, you know, like you say, the whole ego and all of that. I think that in any interaction, we should always be looking to think how we can uplift another person. You may know that homeboy ain't up to scratch, or he wasn't. There's two things here, actually. Homeboy might not have been up to scratch with you, but let's give people grace. People can do better. People can evolve. Yes, it might be an indicator, but you don't have to call that out and bring down someone's whole day and someone's whole evening. Toni, don't watch whether she's looking at you. Don't watch whether the guy used to be whack or whatever. Just focus, Toni, on living your life, being happy, being content. That's really all we need to worry about. And I think, you know, all of our days will be better and all of our interactions would be better if we just spent a bit more time only worrying about what we're doing and honestly, our goals.
Having female friends to help push you towards those goals, there's not a lot better than that. It is a wonderful thing to have female support towards achieving what you want to achieve, camaraderie, encouragement, a confidence boost.
Yes.
It really is priceless. And so to ditch those friends or to destroy those relationships because of our own insecurities, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it's lovely when it works well. That's what I'd say. The sisterhood is lovely when it works well. When we get it right, it's beautiful. There's nothing like it. So with that, this episode is done.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Lyrically Speaking podcast. We're so grateful for all of you, our listeners. We don't want this episode to be the end of us connecting. So tell us what your key takeaways were. They're probably different to ours, so we'd love to hear them. You can tweet us with your takeaways or leave them as a comment on our social media post or our YouTube video for this episode. We are at Lyrically Speaking Podcast across all platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, except X, where you can find us as at Lyrically Pod. You can find Louise on Twitter and Instagram as at Carlo Coaching, that's Carlo with a K, and me, Omar, as at Omar.fam.